Okay, this is the engine bay inspection of the 2016 Toyota 4Runner for Spokane Preinspection. Right away, I want this gone. I don't want to see an oiled cane and air filter in here on something so new. These clog up, they deposit oils. These are oiled filter, and the oils vaporizes and deposits itself all over the sensors, the MAP sensors in here. So right away, I would advise the next owner to delete this and restore this engine with the original intake manifold with the cotton cellulose filter. These are good for wearing out rings, and they're good for clogging sensors. So get this out of here. Otherwise, there's a mild amount of rust and oxidation in here. The cheaper types of metal that you see on these kits, obviously that's starting to flake off. If being a northern car, probably lived its life all the way up here, all over the place. Seeing oxidation, not seeing leaks, but I am seeing some crusties all the way down, kind of where the welds are, where bolts are. Not an extreme amount. I also appreciate the engine bay does not appear to have been covered in that grease, the dealer grease. Brake fluid is nice and clear. Peeking down a little farther, just a lot of that flash rusting that you're going to see in the northern states. Harness comes back good, not seeing any mechanical damage, rodent damage, infestation, deposits, broken acorns, leaks like that. Looks like yeah, okay, there is a leak, small leak here running down what appears to be an oil feed line for the valve cover. Maybe it's a return line, or it feeds a variable valve timing phaser. Might be, it's kind of hard to see. Looks like it kind of comes from underneath. Might be up against the timing cover, not too sure to tell. I'm not seeing it on the side of the valve cover, so all that's really down there is probably timing cover. So I'm going to go with timing cover on passenger side has a leak. It's shiny enough that it's present, so you can see it's kind of collected on there. It's not dry and kind of like, as you can see kind of up there, it's not kind of dry, it's shiny, so that means it's active and present. Let's see, checking driver's side valve cover, not seeing anything significant in the front. Little bit of a deposition on the very back, by the back above the exhaust manifold. Heater core lines, no oxidation there, no swelling there. That's good to see. Confirmed battery has been replaced, at least of November 2024, so very recently. The timing cover or this leak is concerning. It is going to get worse, so I can't say the engine bay gets a full pass. I feel like that's reasonable for 150,000 miles ish, but a leak is present, so that needs to be documented. Core support, gonna go ahead and peek in here, looking at any damage on the front frame rails, any crush damage. I can see the core support and the crash rail. That looks square, and I did not see, no witness marks on replacement on the front end components or anything like the vehicle has been in a front end collision. So this concludes the engine bay inspection for the 2016 Toyota 4Runner. Thank you. Okay, this is our exterior inspection of the 2016 Toyota 4Runner for Spokane Preinspection. What I'm looking for is deviations in panel work, maybe deviations in the metallic flake in the paint. I'm going to check the wheels for scratches, missing chunks in the fender liner, like maybe it took it took a chunk on the road or ran over some debris. So we're going to look at squareness of panels. So we're going to start with the A pillar to driver door. That looks square. We're going to move to B pillar, square, and C pillar. Door is square to the frame. Working way back, we've got a little deviation in the bumper cover here. Whether this has been pushed or pulled on, maybe it had to have been taken off for a repair underneath. I will use my underbody inspection mirror to see if there's any damage underneath here. Following around, we're going to look at the trunk, the hatch, following that line. We'll compare the gap here to the other side. Following around, gap appears to be the same. Pulling on the plastic on the bumper cover. Bumper cover does feel tight. Walking around, rear driver side. This part's not popped out, and there's clips are snug there. No damage on the wheel. Checking C pillar, square, B pillar, square, A-pillar to driver door, square. Now we're gonna check the hood gap. Okay, looking up that. Slight deviation here, could be QC. That's not enough to make me think any sort of collision, which was contraindicated by what I saw in the front. It looks equal on both sides, so I'm gonna call the paneling square. Interior inspection, roof rails present, don't see any damage up there. Rust, clear coat peeling, any sort of something was stored up here and damaged it. That's looks good up there. So exterior comes back clear. Thank you. Okay, we are starting the underbody inspection of the 2016 Toyota 4Runner for Spokane Preinspection. So I'm starting at the rear left of the vehicle just for convenience, but what I'm looking for is high centering, mechanical damage, excessive amounts of rust, repairs, things that have been spray painted, covered up, things like that. Let's start with the fuel tank rock guard. It's intact. I don't see any damage on it. There's some rust, which is reflected in the engine bay, pretty consistent with the rest of the vehicle. Not too extreme, but present. Let's see what else. Looking for changes in patina colors, parts that have been replaced, and of course leaks and damage. Following around, we've got a spare tire down here. We also actually have one in the trunk as well, so there's two. Checking where I saw that kind of missing kind of part, excuse me, not missing part, missing clip, kind of the clip on the body panel over here that wasn't seated all the way. So I'm gonna check for damage under here. I'm not seeing anything that appears to be any sort of mechanical damage, collision, anything like that. So that might have been something very minor, or they had to have taken the bumper cover off for a repair and it just didn't go back on 100% sometime in its life. So starting with the exhaust, tailpipe here, looking around, looking for leaks, looking at the rear differential. I don't see any leaks on the drain fill ports, back of the muffler. Surprisingly low rust on the back of the muffler. Usually that's something that really likes to go. Moving over to rear right, same thing, canister muffler, surprisingly rust free. Checking frame to see trailing arm, control arms, bolts and bushings. That looks good. Walking along the frame, looking at transfer case. Transfer case is dry, fairly unoxidized. The guards are present, no damage, no leaks. That's good to see. The exhaust crossover pipe looks good. The flanges aren't flash rusted too bad, like they'd flaked out or anything like that. Let's see, moving forward. We've got a little bit of that kind of rust you can see kind of on the control arm, the wishbone kind of right above. It usually starts on the welds where after they paint it, weld it and then paint it. Going to front belly pan, seeing a little bit of superficial surface rust on the tow hook on the front frame. Let's see, sway bar end link bushings look good. Checking belly pan for leaks, anything significant, dripping, wet. Looks like nothing dripping, nothing shiny. It does look kind of like stained. Maybe that's from oil changes, likely from oil changes over time. Again, 150,000 miles, pretty typical. Moving to driver's side, looking up at the, looks like a strut in there. It's either damp or a little bit dirty. It's not shiny, and the vehicle did not handle improperly on the highway or heavy turns or anything like that. So I'm not going to jump to conclusions on the strut on that. Some a little more rust on the suspension, control arms. Following back, exhaust shield on the secondary cat, downstream cat perhaps. And looking at the back of the transfer case. So underbody, I'm gonna give it a pass with the exception that the rust be documented. I wouldn't mark it as significant. I would mark it as expected for the age and for the mileage and the location of the vehicle. Thank you. Okay, this is the interior inspection of the 2016 Toyota 4Runner for Spokane Preinspection. The backup camera right away does not work. It's been documented under the code scan that it's disconnected in the back. Could be a broken wire, Could be some, maybe it was mechanical damage, something like that. I'll know more when I inspect the rear of the vehicle. Other than that, the interior comes back with normal wear and tear for the mileage and the age. There's a little bit of wear on the steering wheel. The seat has a little bit of friction wear on it. The infotainment center works just fine. The HVAC controls work just fine. The four-wheel drive works just fine. Full lock, left and right, everything binds correctly as it should. Low works, high-low, auto works. No concerns there. The sunroof controls, the overhead console controls all work. Dual climate control works. Driver's door module works just fine. Steering wheel control works, and driver's information works. So across the front here, no concerns. No signs of abuse, no weird smells. I'm not smelling musty. I'm not smelling covered up smells. No little trees hanging from the rear view mirror. Nothing in here that made me think that there was water damage or that there was spills or messes that have been tried to cover up. There's a very neutral smell in here, and there's not a heavy coating of, like, you know, that dealer grease that you see on everything. It's not all over the interior in here, so that's always nice to see. Nothing in here feels covered up, so the interior gets a pass. Thank you. Okay, this is a 2016 Toyota 4Runner trunk area inspection for Spokane Preinspection. Underneath this weather guard mat, there's nothing under there. That just would lead, I guess, directly underneath the to the spare tire. There's not like a spare cubby in here that I could see. The carpet actually tucks directly underneath the plastic trim piece. Subwoofers back here. We got a little kind of storage cubby over here. It looks like emergency roadside. That's where your roll-up kit is for your emergency roadside, and what appears to be a jack inside there. Again, spare tire, not sure where this came from. Security cover is intact. No damage to the back of the seats or anything like there's dogs or anything back here chewing stuff up. So trunk gets a pass. Thank you very much. All right, this is the code scan of the 2016 Toyota 4Runner for Spokane Preinspection. Let's quickly kind of just go over these. Nothing major to concern, but I'm going to go over the ones I found. First of all, I'm actually glad that I find something. The vehicle's approaching 10 years old, so it's usually suspicious if nothing comes back. There's always going to be something, especially when we've got 25 modules here to scan. So when they come back all clear, I'm actually more willing to believe that maybe something had been cleared out, and the time it would take to drive the vehicle and have something pop back would be more than, say, an inspector could reasonably spend. So it's actually good to see this. This tells me that nobody's really been in here clearing stuff out, more than likely. So let's go into telematics. Let's start with that. That controls your SIM card stuff, navigation, things like that. Let's see what code's set here. Trouble codes. Nice fast computer. Let's see, we've got replace backup battery. So I guess there's an onboard backup battery for the telematics system that keeps you connected to the SIM card, uploading user data to the cloud, things like that, navigation updates, pull downs, etc. So that is a current code. I couldn't exactly tell you where the battery is located on the vehicle, maybe a dealer thing. Navigation does work, so no immediate concerns for that. Like I said, more than likely has to do with SIM card uploading information, pulling it down, etc. when the vehicle's parked. As a side note, I have been watching the voltage through the diagnostic link connector. This voltage is pulled from the DLC, the diagnostic link connector itself. So there's going to be somewhat of a voltage drop that's observed between here and the actual alternator, the actual charging level of the alternator. And this is typical. However, I would say when I first started the vehicle, I was seeing this sitting at about 12.79, which is a little bit low for a vehicle that's just being driven around. Now it's jumped up and stabilized. That could be part of the battery management system. I'm not seeing a lot of switching on that now. 13.5 I still think is a bit low, but that's more than likely coming from seeing a drop across the CAN bus over to the diagnostic link connector. So not an immediate cause for concern. I may find that when I get to the engine bay, the battery might be a little bit old. So that's something to document there. Let's go into navigation system. Let's see, okay. What are we gonna find here? Okay, rear camera disconnected. In the interior video portion of this inspection, I would have documented that, so you'll see it twice. The backup camera does not work. So it's been either disconnected or it's bad or something happened. Not seeing a lot of other code set for any other wiring in the back hatch. It's very likely the wire in the up, you know, I've seen where the hatch will open, close, and there may be a wire flexes in there and it pops, and it's just killed the backup camera. I see on Subarus that happens to the reverse lights a lot, so that could be the case here. But with no other codes present for back hatch failures or anything like that, lighting failures, lighting codes, anything like that, I'm not too concerned about that. That could just be you open up the lumen, you do the repair. Let's go into the power steering module, trouble codes. So historical signal, vehicle speed signal, chassis code set. This is more likely a symptom rather than a cause, especially since it's historical, it's not current. So these a lot of times will relate to a dead battery. The vehicle sat for a while. This is not jumping out as a cause for concern for me. Really, I do see these a lot of times for bad batteries and things like that, or again, the battery ran down over time. Unlikely related to the backup battery, more than likely like a whole system wide, maybe the battery was replaced at a certain time, this was never cleared. And the vehicle, the speedometer does work just fine, so this code is not going to jump out at me and be a red flag. This concludes the code scan. Thank you. Yeah, this is the conclusions video for the 2016 Toyota 4Runner. Let's kind of go over what was found. Let's document the small leak that is on the timing cover side passenger that's soaking the oil feed line. Be aware of that. Front brakes are at 10 millimeter pads, rears are at 6 millimeter, tires are 9/32 all around. Documented this little kind of maybe broken clip right here. The telematics battery is bad. There is a problem with the backup camera, so there's a disconnect there in the harness. It could either be a bad camera itself, or it could be just a break in the harness up here, which I would generally say is more likely. That's what I seem to deal with. There is a high-speed vibration in the front end, but it's very minor. It's in the steering wheel. I see that with these aggressively treaded tires. And the customer notes did want an opinion on whether or not these tires would be good in the wintertime. I go with no on these because these are all-terrain tires. They're not specifically rated for winter, ice, and snow. They're healthy tires, and the tires are good as they sit. But for ice, snow, things like that, the tread compound needs to be winter rated. What that means is that even if this is all-terrain tire, when the temperatures drop below 30-20 degrees, that rubber becomes inflexible and hard as a rock. The nubs on there don't grip like they're supposed to because it's not the correct tread compound for the condition. So I always recommend, and any mechanic or technician should recommend, that you have tires that are appropriate for the climate. So these tires are good. I would still recommend to get a set of actual winter tires, whether studded or otherwise. I prefer studded. That may be personal opinion. But I would definitely recommend that. This car is going to Montana. There is the documented rust. It was not extreme, but it was present. I can see that being here on a vehicle that is approaching 10 years old and has 150,000 miles on it. I couldn't speak to its history of where it's lived all over its life, but it's clearly a more northern car. This is not an Arizona car. Let's see. Interior came back good. Exterior came back good. Trunk came back good. Code scan, bad battery in the telematics unit, and the backup camera obviously documented in that as well. So this is the conclusions video for the 2016 Toyota 4Runner. Thank you.